and return home with 3 points.
Yeah, they certainly are. Now, as always, we're going to be joined by our two guests, the hauntingly familiar Dean Hammond and our little pumpkin, Adam Leitch. How are you guys?
I'm very well, thank you. I think I'll let Adam speak now after his introduction there.
I think mine was bad. A little pumpkin. I mean, it sounds affectionate rather than scary, which I guess I'd take.
Yeah.
Ages coming up with those as well.
Yeah, we made a real effort there. Well, we've got loads coming up on the show, don't we, Steve? Lots to look forward to.
Exactly, yeah, and make sure you get your comments in on the social channels too. Right, we're going to dive straight into it, chaps. So we know that Theo Walcott is back in contention today after missing the Everton game as he's on loan from his parent club. But Djenepo, Salisu and Smallbone are all out. Adam, we'll come to you first. What do you make of Ralph's options today? What are you expecting him to do?
Well, I think an unchanged team, to be fair. I mean, obviously they're in great form. They played brilliantly, great result and a great performance against Everton. I can't really see a lot of justification for changing it. It's a great option to have Theo back, and I could totally understand the temptation of bringing him back into the team. But I think right now you try and just keep. I mean, we've spoken before. When you've got momentum, you try and keep it going. You try and keep it rolling forward. The players that are winning, they kind of earn the shirt. They kind of, it's theirs to lose, if you like, or somebody's to win back. So I think you keep Theo as a great option to have to come off the bench if you need a bit of extra attacking threat or even some fresh legs later on if you're doing well and you're trying to close out a win. But I think you stick with it. I mean, it's a strong team. They're playing great. Keep it going, I say.
Yeah, and Dean, what about yourself? You expecting any changes today?
No, I agree with Adam. I don't think there'll be any changes. I think there's been a good period of time in between the games, so the players would have fully recovered. Unless there's any injuries or anything we don't know about there, I fully expect it to be the same team just because of the recent performances, and especially against Everton, where it was probably the performance of the season, I would say so far. Just very controlled, completely dominated the game after the first 20 minutes, and Southampton look like a team now that fully understand each other, fully enjoy playing with each other, and getting performances and results now, and that's the perfect combination. So I don't foresee any changes unless there, like I say, there's any injuries or any worries or any concerns, because the players have got a real momentum now, like Adam mentioned, and they're winning games and enjoying winning games. So they want to get back out to the pitch and test themselves against a good Aston Villa team today.
Yeah, it was an amazing display by all, but you know, James Ward-Prowse particularly impressed, didn't he? With his goal, Adam, he came into a more attacking position, and we've seen him play deeper, of course, this season. But where do you kind of think he fits better, if you will, and do you think he could be used as an option further up the field?
Well, it's kind of the million-dollar question of Prowse's career, really, so far, is what is his position? And there's never really been an answer, which is, in one way, brilliant for him as a player, because when you've kind of got that flexibility, it obviously gives you more options of getting into the team every week. But then, I guess, you know, as you get a little bit older, which he does today with another birthday, then I think you kind of want to make a position your own. I mean, I know down the years, having spoken to him, he's always fancied himself playing that deeper role. I think he sees himself as that kind of quarterback style defensive midfielder because of the range that he's got with his passing and his ability in that area. I would say he's added more to his game from an attacking sense, whether that's really a technical thing or more of a confidence thing. I suspect it's a confidence thing with him now. So I think he could be utilised further forward. But right now, when you look at the context of the entire squad and where Saints kind of need him, I think that the slightly deeper lying role is perfect for him. And when he's got Romeo alongside him, you know that Oriole's super disciplined. He doesn't go walkabouts very often. He's very, very good at what he does in that role. And that does allow Prowse the freedom to be more attacking, to get forward. He knows that Oriole he's not going to look over his shoulder and see Oriole stood next to him on the edge of the attacking 18-yard box. So I think it's kind of the role that suits him best, and it suits Saints best right now.
I mean, maybe one of the biggest problems Ralph faces, or biggest dilemma that he faces, is who he chooses on the right side of midfield. Will it be Theo Walcott or Stuart Armstrong? Dean, how did you rate Stuart's performance last week?
Very good, especially considering he come back into the team after his illness and his breakout, and he lasted 60 to 70 minutes, I think, performed very well. I mentioned it before, I really like Stuart. I mean, he gives such balance to the team because he's so versatile. He can play so flexible within that system to allow other players to maybe express themselves more. His creativity and his awareness is good. I mean, last week he combined very well. The front four were very attacking. And like Adams just spoke about there in the previous question, I think James Ward-Prowse gets into more advanced positions and gets chances to score because when he's playing the right side of the two centre midfield players and Stuart Armstrong's playing on the right, if James does get forward, Armstrong's intelligent enough to fill in, and if he sees a gap, he will cover around centrally. So I think James Ward-Prowse has the confidence there to go forward because he knows he's not going to be found out or out of position in them situations. So Stuart Armstrong, I think, is a massive player with the ball and without the ball, and he just allows other players to become better players, gives them more freedom, and he's just slightly different to Redmond and Walcott just because they're very quick, they're very direct. He has more control of the ball and can control and create things through a through pass, through a cross, through a shot. So his value to the team, I think, is immense, and he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet now for myself.
Well, we will be bringing you that team sheet in just under 10 minutes time now, so still plenty of time to get your comments in. Tell us who you'd like to see in your starting 11. Still plenty of excited Saints fans, some score predictions coming in as well, of course. Ivan on YouTube, hello to you. He says this is going to be a very interesting game, should be a great tactical battle. As a Saints fan, I think this could be a tough battle though against a very good Villa side. And Mark Carter's also got in touch. He said, come on Saints, let's get another 3 points today. He fancies a 2-1 win and he thinks it will be Theo and Danny with the goals. So as I mentioned, please do send us in your thoughts and let us know how you'd like the Saints to line up to take on Aston Villa today.
Yeah, so Southampton did beat Everton last time out in the Premier League, so let's remind ourselves of what happened in that match.
Sigurdsson's got an overlap from Digne, he might ignore it and shoot right-footed, and he does, and crashes it onto the crossbar. Dipping shot from Sigurdsson, hit the first defender, come back to Romeo, who fires it, and Pickford parries it, and then it's cleared away by Digne for a Saints throw on this near side. Got a good view of it, but it was good height. But now Ings in the box, and he can't stop that one. It's Ward-Prowse who scored it actually from the right, fires it in, and Saints do have the lead. Really well struck into the far corner from the Saints captain James Ward-Prowse. Ings goes to the byline, pulls it back into the penalty area. It'll fall for Adams. Narrow angle. Oh, and he scores! Came off the defender, went through Pickford's legs. That'll do nicely. 2-2 from Che Adams, and 2 goals up for Southampton. To Redmond, who's up on the right, and then an early ball from Ings. No offside flag yet. It might go up. Adams has it in the box. The flag's still down. Defender's coming back. He's waiting for some support. Gets it. Low shot. Is it going to count? Everton wait for VAR and the flag does go up. I thought so. Half tackled. Redmond again. To his left is Armstrong. Busts the 6-yard area and somehow Danny Ings doesn't get a touch to make it 3-0. Walker-Peters has done brilliantly. Digne, oh, he's caught him. That's nasty. Saints players are furious with that challenge from Lucas Digne. He's not really going for the ball, and he's actually almost slid. He's given him the straight red as well. Lucas Digne is off. Everton have put out of their misery. The league leaders toppled handsomely by Southampton.
Dean, we saw Lucas Digne's red card there. That obviously caused quite a stir on social media. Some people were saying it was definitely a red card. Other people were saying it wasn't. You were quite adamant that it was, but his match suspension's been reduced from 3 games to 1. Does that surprise you?
I'm not sure it surprises me because it depends who's looking at it. I look at it from an ex-player's point of view, being in that situation myself. He'd already had 1 bite at Walker-Peters. He was chasing him back. They were losing the game 2-0. You could see he was frustrated. And if you look at it, I watched it again actually, and you watch it in slow motion. Before he actually puts his foot down, the Achilles of Walker-Peters, he puts his hands up. So he kind of knows what he's going to do. He's kind of trying to demonstrate to the referee, look, I apologise for this. He's going to run across me. But I just think there's real intent there. I think he's meant to catch him. I think it's a lazy challenge. I think he's tired towards the end of the game. I think it's dangerous. I mentioned last week, in my career, I was all for one of a challenge, of being competitive, of wanting players to win the ball and be winners within your team. But intentionally trying to harm a player like that is just, I don't see there's any room for that in football. I don't think it's needed. Walker-Peters wasn't going through on goal. He got away from him, so just kind of let him go. So I think it's definitely a red card. I think it's a 3-game suspension. I know that's been reduced now, but I'm not surprised because it depends who's looking at it and whose opinions it is. But I'm looking at it from an ex-player's point of view, probably been in that situation myself, been tempted to do that myself when you're feeling tired and lazy and you just want to clip someone's heels or make a hard challenge. So I'm not surprised, but I think it should have been a 3-game suspension.
Adam, on the show last week, Joe Prince-Wright described it as an orange card, not quite a yellow, or a bit more than a yellow, but not quite a red. What's your stance on it?
Yeah, to be honest, I tend to agree with Dean. I think for me, it was a red card. It was a nasty tackle, and totally needless as well. I mean, it was one of those born purely. It looked out of frustration, and as Dean said, a little bit of laziness as well. I'm not sure he absolutely intended it to go quite the way it did, and for it to be quite as dangerous as it was. I'm not sure there was that level of intent there, but yeah, it was not a good tackle. And for me, those are the kind of things that should be stamped out of the game as best as possible, because they are the kind of challenges that can cause serious injuries to players, and that's not what any of us who love the game want to see. You want to see competitiveness, you want to see challenges. You don't mind things getting a bit feisty. That's fine, that's great. I mean, that's great viewing as well. But when it reaches the point that somebody's making a challenge on a player from behind as well, it's just a bit nasty, really, and it's needless. So I think the red card was the right decision. Was it bad enough for a 3-game suspension? Probably not. So I think maybe they probably rested on the right decision, which is to uphold the red card but reduce the length of the suspension.
Well, from one left back to another now then, Matt Targett will be amongst the Aston Villa squad to take on Southampton today. He seemed to be one of those players that divided opinion between Saints fans. Adam, how do you reflect on his time at the club?
Well, I think Matt was a good lad and a good player for Saints. I mean, he obviously came through the academy. He'd been at Saints a long time, put a lot of effort in all the time. And a decent player. I mean, to be honest, his misfortune was the year he broke into the team was the year that made his debut, was the year Ryan Bertrand signed, and in Ryan Bertrand, Saints signed a top quality, an international quality left back, who has now been at the club ever since. And for Matt, that was always the problem. And I quite respect Matt because he made a big decision. He could have stayed at Saints and kept on, trying to hang on the fringes, as it were, and wait for his opportunity somewhere. But he made the call that he wanted to play. He was ambitious. He felt he was a Premier League player, so he did his loan time at Fulham. He did great there. Obviously, Aston Villa were interested. It was a good move for him. And now he plays every week. So it's one of those that's kind of worked out pretty well for everybody, I think. And I thought he did well for Saints. He could have had more opportunities, potentially. But like I say, when you find yourself behind a player of Ryan Bertrand's undoubted quality, then it's always going to be difficult, and especially if you're a young player. So I say good on him for getting a move and for becoming a Premier League regular, because I think we all felt he had it in him. But to get ahead of Ryan Bertrand was always going to be a big ask for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the team news is with us now. We can bring you that here on Saints Live. Now, there was some debate as to whether we'd see Theo Walcott feature or Stuart Armstrong. Well, I can tell you the answer is that they'll both be featuring in the Southampton starting 11. You can see the Saints team in full on your screens now. Let's go through it quickly, though. In goal, Alex McCarthy. The back four, Kyle Walker-Peters, Yannick Vestergaard, Jan Bednarek and Ryan Bertrand. In the middle of the park, Oriol Romeu, James Ward-Prowse our captain, Stuart Armstrong and Theo Walcott, and the strikers Danny Ing and Shay Adams. A quick glance at the Southampton substitutes: Fraser Forster, Jack Stevens, Ibrahima Diallo, Nathan Redmond, Musa Djenepo, Dan Lundalu and Shane Long. So let's come to you, Dean, then, for an initial reaction on the way Saints line up to take Aston Villa today.
Well, to start with, it just shows the depth in the squad now and the competition for places, which is a really good thing. I personally am a little bit surprised that Redmond's not in the team just because of last week's performance. But it just also shows that the manager's always looking for improvement, always looking to go a step further. So he may feel that Theo just may bring something different to Redmond in terms of his final product. I think that's the only question mark over Nathan. He runs with the ball really well. He creates space, he creates opportunities. But if you reflect on last week, he had a few shots that were wayward, a few crosses that potentially could have been better. So maybe the managers looked at that and think, well, if Theo was in the same situation, maybe he would have scored, maybe he would have created something better. So that's a decision from that. Regarding the rest of the team, I think it's a good decision to go with the rest because the players are in good form. Like I mentioned before, they're enjoying playing together, they're building relationships, and they look solid as a unit. So the manager's obviously got his decision. I'm a little bit surprised because of the result last week, but like I say, it probably just shows his ambition as a man that he wants to improve each week and have Southampton the best team that they possibly can.
Adam, what's your take on this then? Are you surprised to see Nathan Redmond sidelined today?
Yeah, I am. I mean, obviously we don't know anything further. It's possible that Nathan might be like feeling slightly under the weather or have picked up a little knock or something. But on the assumption that he's 100% fit, then I think it is a little bit of a surprise. And I think probably Nathan is probably justified to not feel all that happy about it. I think he'll be a little bit annoyed, I would suspect, as part of a team that's pulled off such a great win. That said, when you actually look at the option of bringing Theo in, it doesn't weaken the team, so you can't criticise that much for it. But I imagine it was smart a little bit for Nathan. And the other interesting thing is seeing Musa on the bench as well, of course, which I don't think we had expected. So there's a lot of attacking options there for Ralph if he needs them.
Yeah, Adam, looking at the bench, you're talking about the strength in depth. The new signing Ibrahima Diallo on the bench again this week. Dean, we talked last week about how good Romeo's been in the middle of the park. Now, Ralph was saying during the week that he seems to have grasped his chance with both hands now that Højbjerg's left. Adam, do you think it's going to be really difficult for Diallo to actually get into the starting lineup now?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, how do you break in right now? I mean, it's great. It's a great thing for Ralph to have at his disposal, and I think the same will probably happen for Salisu when he's fit as well. It's going to be very, very hard for these guys to get in. But ultimately, I think that you when you look at it on the whole, you say, well, they need depth. I mean, as hard as it is to get in right now, when Oriol and Prowse are playing so well, the reality is, unfortunately, Oriol and Prowse are unlikely to be available for every single Premier League game this season. There's going to be an injury potentially. There's going to be a suspension, definitely at the rate that Oriol racks up yellow cards. It's like one a week. That you would imagine that he will get a chance. And then, like we said, at the moment when the team's winning and doing well, it's kind of your shirt. Then it's yours to try and state your claim and keep. And that's what the challenge is going to be for these guys. And in a way, it's lovely to see from the outside looking in that they're not just signing players that are kind of walking straight in, because if they're walking straight in, that does automatically suggest that the players that are there kind of aren't really up to it. Whereas actually what Saints have done is they've recruited and added depth and quality of depth in positions where they needed them. And so I think that's what you see from the fact that it's going to be harder for these guys to get in the team, and that's only positive, really.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been an interesting shake-up to the starting 11, but it seems that most fans are pretty happy with the way Saints are lining up to take on Aston Villa. Tyler Walker's actually got in touch with us and he said this is his dream starting 11, so he's happy to see Theo Walcott and Stuart Armstrong both featuring alongside each other in the side. Stephen's got in touch on YouTube. Hello to you. He's going for a 2-1 win for the Saints today, and he says, "Come on, you Reds," from Steve in Southampton. And then Lou's also left us a comment. He said Armstrong and Romeo were absolutely brilliant last week, and Mark said, yeah, the whole team looks good, but he does think it's going to be a tough test against Villa today.
Right, so a bit of fun now. Because it's our Halloween themed special, we have created a Saints Halloween 5-a-side team. Now, you may have seen on the socials, we put down an 11-a-side squad based on a certain theme. You can change those names, but we haven't gone with a full 11 for this week. We've just gone with 5-a-side, so we can see that now.
Yeah, there it is. Some interesting ones in here.
Yeah.
So we've got Skeletomy Forecast in goal. I like that one to kick us off.
Yeah, we've also got Radi Jady has become Radi Jairi in defence.
Simon Gillett has become Simon Guillotine.
And he's in midfield alongside Guli de Prado.
Love your delivery on that one. And up front, it's Papa Wago, or should I say Papa Way Ghost?
Yeah, right. So that's our Halloween 5-a-side team. Do let us know if you can think of any better names, but we're going to talk about those players now with you, Dean and Adam.
Something tells me that the fans are going to come up with a few better ones than us.
Yeah.
That was quite tricky, wasn't it? Well, let's kick off by talking about Tommy Forecast then, shall we, Adam? We actually spoke about him, didn't we, a few weeks ago on the show, discussing it with Gareth Bell. For anyone who doesn't know who's watching, why is he kind of considered a bit of a bizarre cult hero here at Saints?
Well, I mean, he signed. It wasn't as part of the Gareth Bale moving deal, but it got packaged up somehow, so it wasn't part of the fee or anything, but it kind of was a mutual agreement. But he arrived, and it seemed a very strange signing at the time. I don't think anybody quite understood it. And he signed a 5-year contract, which was absolutely extraordinary. And it was even more extraordinary given that he didn't play a single game in 5 years. It takes a unique player to pull off a 5-year stint at a club without a single appearance. But I mean, he managed it, and he's actually I looked up his stats, and he's only played 40 games in a 9-10 year professional career, really, which is a surprise. But I mean, yeah, it was a weird signing, and definitely one that didn't really pay off in any sense at all, other than for Tommy, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I watched him a few times in the reserves, and really, I mean, he really struggled very badly. He was not great. He went out on loan, and that went quite badly as well. I mean, I remember him going to Crewe, and I think he played one game. They got hammered, and the local paper there described him as shockingly inept, and basically the loan got cancelled, and he got sent back about a week later.
Oh no!
I mean, it was bizarre. I mean, you kind of felt for him, really, because he always seemed like, whenever I spoke to him, he seemed like he was a nice lad, but he obviously just, for whatever reason, was not going to quite be up to the mark that was required in terms of the quality that he possessed. And yeah, but I mean, people still talk about him because he's the guy who signed in a kind of a blaze of glory. He was here for 5 years and didn't play, so that's why he's still remembered, I think.
Oh, so we've not started this 5-a-side team very well then.
No, we haven't.
Dean, you may not have played alongside him on the pitch, but what was he like in the dressing room?
Yeah, Tommy was a really good character, actually, and he was good value in the dressing room. He brought a lot to the dressing room. Like Adam said, he obviously didn't play a game. He wasn't really part of the squad. He used to train with the first team a lot, and was used for a lot of shooting practice for the strikers, so they probably enjoyed that. But I think Tommy kind of appreciated and knew his situation. I think he was quite realistic because of the quality of goalkeepers he had in front of him to start with, and that maybe he knew he wasn't going to play for the first team. But in the dressing room, very, very funny guy, very loud, actually, which is, you know, for a player that's not playing, who's not part of the first team, he was very confident and very loud. Not in an arrogant way, but he was good value. If you needed the dressing room to be a bit louder at the training ground. If we'd lost and had a bad result, he would put some smiles on faces. So in terms of football-wise, he didn't bring much to the football club in terms of the transfer and maybe the financial package. But in the dressing room with the lads, he was well liked. He was funny, and he was good humour in the dressing room and in the canteen. So no, I like Tommy. Got some time for him, but I prefer spending time with him in the dressing room than having him on my team on the training ground. Put it that way.
Very politely put there, Dean. Looking in front of Tommy then, Raddy was also a teammate of yours, Dean. Of course, when he came to Southampton, he had a wealth of experience under his belt. What did he bring to the team at the time?
Well, a lot, to be honest. When he first came in, obviously he brought that experience. He came into the football club, actually. I think at the time when I just signed and the club had previously tried to sign him, I don't know if something happened with the medical or he had a change of heart, or the club did. And then he came back a few weeks later and he wasn't fit when he first came in. But you could see Raddy still had lots to offer. He wanted to play. He was excellent around the dressing room. Really, really good with the younger players, especially the French boys, because obviously Raddy could speak fluent French. And he was excellent, especially to Morgan. You know, Morgan was at that age very temperamental. You know, a young player with lots of talent, but kind of didn't want to be in a League One team at the moment because he was better than that, I suppose. But the club was going in the right direction. So, no, when Raddy got himself fit and got into the team, he was brilliant. A really physical presence, dominated the back four, and brought a lot to the team at the time when we were in the relegation zone on minus 10 points. Had a real impact and stayed at the club for a good few years. Picked up a few injuries because of his age at the time, but then obviously stayed on at the club and worked within the youth system. So really good effect, really nice guy, and I think my back's still recovering from that time he body slammed me when I scored at Bournemouth. So I'll always appreciate him for that. But no, nice guy, and helped me and helped lots of other players at the time when he came into the club.
Yeah, Adam, was Raddy signing a show of intent from the club, or was it not really seen like that at the time?
I think it was a bit of a mixture, really. But I think in hindsight, we probably should have seen it as more of a show of intent. It was probably just in that period where Saints were signing a lot of players and a lot of high-quality players. So it was kind of just another one on the roster in a way. And as Dean said, also the actual kind of announcement around the signing, it wasn't a surprise because they had been trying to get him. I think it was, there were a few issues, work permit being one of them. I seem to recall that were holding up the signing, and then Saints got it over the line and got all the agreements in place as well, and got him in. But yeah, I mean, obviously he had a good Premier League career with Bolton and with Birmingham. He'd extensive international experience as well. And so a guy like that, just to bring that extra level of experience and gravitas to the club, I think was a valuable thing. Obviously, as Dean said, his actual, when you look at he's only there a few years really, sort of a bit patchy, especially towards the end. Injuries really caught up with him kind of towards the end of those 3 years. But I think, as I recall, a big kind of, as Dean said, a big presence as much as anything else, a good person to have around because of his knowledge and his experience and kind of the respect that he generated within the squad for what he'd achieved in his career and who he was. And obviously, as Dean experienced with the body slam, a big guy in more ways than one, and a good person to have on your team, because I imagine if you were a striker and you were looking at him, you'd be fairly intimidated.
Yeah, that body slam really must have. Adam, sticking with you then, a two-man midfield of Simon Gillett and Guli de Prado. Let's start by talking about Simon. What do you remember about him?
Yeah, I like Simon in that he wasn't a player that possessed a lot of quality, to be completely honest, not Premier League type quality. But he was a guy who worked hard and made the best of what he had. I mean, he had a good career. He played a lot of games, 250, 300 odd games, which is a good career. He came through the youth ranks at Southampton. I remember watching him in the youth team and then through into the reserves and later into the first team. And he got his chance in the first team thanks in a way to kind of Saints' unfortunate situation, which I think 08-09 when the club had pared back the squad massively in the Championship, and it was a very, very, very young team. And he was kind of called upon to play like a lot of the players there. It was probably a bit too early for him, or definitely too early in a very young team. And when Saints went down to League One, obviously we kind of know what happened from there. And really, to be honest, Dean's signing was kind of beginning of the end for him, because Dean sort of occupied a very similar role to Simon, but was a much higher quality player than Simon was, and kind of that signalled the end of his time at Saints. But I kind of will always remember him. He obviously wasn't a big guy. He was very small in stature, but he was a bit like a kind of terrier-like midfielder. Very worked hard. He was conscientious, and he was a neat, tidy passer of the ball. But ultimately, kind of, he found his level, I think, and he had a good career at that level. So fair play to him for making the best of everything he had.
Yeah, and alongside him is Gulli de Prado. He's a player that Saints fans will often look back on with fondness, but it maybe didn't click straight away for him. Dean, what do you remember of Gulli, both on and off the pitch?
Nice guy, happy a lot of the time. When he first came in, obviously struggled with the language. I think the club actually initially, I think Alan Pardew brought him as a central midfield player. I think that was his natural position. So it took him a bit of time to find out that, he ended up playing on a wide right. He played centre forward. But nice guy. He was very, very technically good, Gulli. Not kind of pleasing on the eye, technically good, but everything he done well. I wouldn't say he was amazing at anything, but he was a good passer. He had good pace, but not lightning quick. Held the ball up well. Had some nice trickery. And was well liked within the dressing room. Liked to tackle as well, a little bit dirty, I must admit, in training sometimes. I remember one time him and Jason Punchin had a few conversations on a pre-season tour, which was interesting. But no, he was a very good player, good servant for the football club. And once he found his rhythm, and I think his best position was as a centre forward, but as kind of number 10, but more of a striker, not a natural number 10 that links the play up, but just comes off and tries to link things up and then get in the box. So, no, really good player, and was brilliant when he came in. And once he found his feet and learnt the language and got on well with the boys, that he became an excellent player.
Adam, how would you sum up Gulli's time at Saints?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I agree with kind of what Dean said there. He sort of once he settled, he did a good job. Probably a bit inconsistent, I would say. That's probably why his time kind of naturally petered out somewhat at Saints. I suppose they're bringing in higher quality players as well at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, a decent signing. He did a decent job for Saints. It was strange, I suppose, because I think when anybody signs a Brazilian player, your first thought is the sort of mercurial talent, and actually, though Gulli did have plenty of talent, he was actually kind of a bit of a harder worker than you would expect for somebody who came in as a Brazilian attacking player. And yeah, I think that was the interesting thing about him, is he sort of had an interesting mix of ability and work rate and commitment to kind of tackle back and stuff like that. But I mean, he made a big contribution in those teams that were very successful. Ultimately, it wasn't a hugely long stay at Saints, really, in the context of things, because the club were improving. But yeah, he played a good role, and the fans remember him with a lot of fondness as well, which is nice for him, I would suggest.
Yeah, and lastly, up front, we've got Papa Wago, whose goals helped Saints that season, particularly in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. Dean, can you tell us a little bit about him, please?
Well, Papa again was another interesting signing. Didn't know a lot about it. I think he came from Fiorentina. Did he come from Fiorentina on loan? And I think there was a bit of hype around him, obviously, because he's come from a huge club. He settled in well with Raddy and Morgan. They socialised together, and seemed like they were having a lot of fun, even though we couldn't understand what they were saying because they were speaking a lot in French, but they were smiling a lot, which was good. But no, like you say, Papa got some really important goals and wasn't the best trainer in the world, I'd say. I probably wouldn't want him on my team that much. He was quite frustrating. But no, he had an impact on games, especially in the Paints Trophy, and scored some really, really important goals, and was a nice guy. And occasionally, for no reason at all, would come into the training ground all suited and booted in a suit for no reason at all. He just fancied wearing a suit sometimes, which was interesting. And I would say the suit didn't always go out as it came in, if that makes sense, with some of the players around. But no, he was a good guy, good player, scored some goals. I was actually a little bit surprised that he didn't come back after his loan period, because he did have a decent effect. But like Adam's previously said, the club was moving forward, was looking for more high-profile players and probably better players. But, you know, he'd be well remembered at the club.
It's great to see some of his goals there, and what a celebration as well.
Very
That's a unique, memorable one for sure. Adam, what do you remember of Papa's time at the club?
The dance, for sure.
Stands out, doesn't it?
And the fact that they managed to encourage him to do it when they sort of unveiled him at St Mary's. So I remember him sort of being brought onto the pitch, and they got him to do the dance there and then, which was in his suit as well. He was looking very dapper, as Dean said, and yeah, he did it there and then. But yeah, I mean, Papa was one of those what I call like a chaos factor player, in that they just bring chaos, and the chaos is in equal measure to the opposition and their own teammates, because he didn't ever seem to quite know what he was going to do next, which made it, obviously, I imagine at times infuriating to play with him, but I'm incredibly difficult to play against him, because if he didn't know what he was going to do next, how did you know? And yeah, so I think ultimately the strive for better and more consistent players was probably the reason he was only there for a year. But he did have a contribution. He did give Saints a little bit of an X factor at a time when they needed it, and obviously he scored a goal at Wembley in the Paint Trophy final. He scored, in fact, he was a top scorer for the Paint Trophy that year, which obviously helped Saints to lift that trophy. So it was a memorable year, and we talked about sort of cult heroes, and I think Papa is another one that falls into that category, really. A short time at Saints, but a memorable time.
Yeah, and I suppose finally, Dean, I think I know where you're going to go with this one, but as a five-a-side team, how do you think they'd get on?
Well, I don't think I'd want to be involved in the five-a-side team. I wouldn't want to manage that team. I think it might concede a few goals. And one good thing about it being a five-a-side team, there's no offside rule, because I think Papa and Gouli were, you know, I don't think they really understood that rule, the offside rule, because they used to make lots of runs in behind, but we'll be miles offside. But like Adam said, they caused chaos, so it was good fun. But no, I think it would be good entertainment. But yeah, I wouldn't want to play in it. I don't think it would. I don't think it would do as well as the other teams we've had. Put it that way.
The whipping boys of that league.
Yeah, perhaps not our finest example of a five-a-side team, but it was good fun nonetheless. Now, before we get to previewing today's opposition, let's head to social media for the final time on today's show, see what's being said at home. And it seems that the fans are really, really happy with the way the Saints are setting up today. Lou said the exact lineup I wanted. Ralph and a little love heart. We've got a comment here on YouTube. Theo Walcott is scoring today. A few people saying that, actually. Isaac on YouTube has said great lineup, Walcott to score and Armstrong to get the assist. Andrew, hello to you. He's on Facebook. He says great lineup. Come on, you Reds. Catherine, good morning. Is it still morning? Yes, it is. She said, come on, boys, victory at Villa, and a love heart emoji. Paul Lucas has sent us in a comment. He says Matty Targett versus Carl Walker-Peters is a good battle. Great to see Dino on the show. Great skipper. Saints 2-1 today, please. And then we've got a final comment here on YouTube. This one's from South Coast. Come you Saints, another clean sheet coming today. They're going for 2-0 for Southampton, and come on you Reds. So actually the fans are feeling really optimistic, expecting another big win, and really, really happy with the lineup.
Yeah, fingers crossed for today. Now, for the last few minutes, it would be rude not to talk about today's game. So Dean, let's go into it. There's been loads of talk about Villa this season, their league position, and that they are the real deal. Now, do you think they are, or is their position slightly false?
Depends what you're calling the real deal. Is it the real deal for Aston Villa or the real deal for a Premier League team? I think they're definitely going to do better this season than they did last year. I don't think they're going to be involved in a relegation battle. I think from the stats, they've had 3 clean sheets and only conceded 5 goals this season. So John Terry is obviously starting to have an effect at the club from obviously being a world-class defender and now working with the team. Obviously, Grealish and Barkley are exciting players and a lot of creativity. And I think the best signing they've had is Ollie Watkins from Brentford. I think they've got a goal scorer now that last year potentially they were creating chances and not scoring, and they were playing a lot more defensive because they probably knew that they couldn't score 2-3 goals a game, so they were trying to nick games from set pieces or sitting in and playing on the counter-attack. So they're a much better team, and with McGinn, I think in midfield, he's a very, very talented player and a player that I think other clubs will be looking at. So they're definitely going to improve this year. Will they finish in 5th place where they are now? Potentially not, but I think they're going to push for a top 10 finish this season, and that will be an improvement and probably where Aston Villa are.
Turning that question to Saints then, Adam, are Southampton the real deal? Because a win today could see us move into the top 3.
I'm trying not to get carried away because it's early in the season, but I'm definitely excited by what I'm seeing. So it's a difficult one. Like, I guess experience tells me that it doesn't pay to get too invested in this kind of stuff and running away with yourself too much after 6, 7, 8 games, because it's still very early. But I would be a liar if I didn't say that the start of this season has hallmarks of 2015-16, when obviously Saints were in and around the top 4 for most of the season, finished 6th. But also, of course, that was the year Leicester won the title, and we saw a lot of stuttering from some of the bigger clubs that you obviously naturally expect to be at the top, and we've seen some of those the big 6 stuttering to begin with this season. It's still very early days, and I'd expect them to come back strong, because there's none of the big 6 look especially weak this season. They've just kind of, a few of them have just got to get their house in order a little bit, or adapt to some changes that have been forced upon them through various things. So I still think it's going to be hard for Saints to do that. But again, it is a little bit, as Dean said, rightly weighing up what we mean by kind of the real deal. Do we mean the real deal for Saints? Do we mean the real deal for the league? I think it's still going to be hard to achieve, let's say, a top 6 finish like they did in 2015-16. But this is a really exciting team. There's no doubt about it. They've got a great manager. They've got a good bunch of players. They have worked to improve the depth. We haven't seen all of those players yet. They've come in to improve those areas, so we can't draw firm conclusions, but it looks good on paper. So I think there's every reason to be optimistic and excited, and clearly there is the potential of there being an opportunity if one or two of those big 6 teams continue to stutter for whatever reason, to kind of sneak in to a higher place in the league table than you might expect. But it is still so early in the season. We kind of have to temper it a little bit, but at the same time, what is football if you can't dream and you can't get excited? And it's a great team. And people are happy watching them, and that's the most important thing, and they're getting results. So yeah, I think this really feel this could be a really good year for Saints for sure.
Yeah, you highlight there, Adam, that the big teams have kind of faltered or struggled in the first few weeks of the season. Dean, is this a real opportunity for Southampton to finish high in the table, or is it just still a bit too early to say?
I think it's still early in the season, but I agree with Adam. It's hard not to get carried away because of the way Southampton are playing. They're very, very exciting, and the one thing that successful teams always do is score goals. And Southampton look like going to score goals against anyone. And it is a unique season where I think the top four, let's call them the bigger clubs, I think they're been affected the most because they enjoy playing in front of their home fans, their 50, 60, 70,000 home fans, which, it brings that fear factor. If Southampton are going to Liverpool with 50,000, and the Kop end is high and it's loud, it's going to be more difficult than going to Anfield when it's empty. So I think it's an opportunity for I hate to say it, the smaller teams to beat the bigger teams this season. I think there will be some freak results that we've seen so far, and it's going to just be the teams that can be the most consistent and put the runs together. And Southampton are doing that at the moment. They look comfortable in each game. I say it most weeks, they're not nicking performances, they're not nicking results, and it's 1-0 and they're holding on. They're comfortable. Last week against Everton, it could have been 3, it could have been 4, and Everton are second in the league, invested heavily, and one of the favourites to probably get in the top 6, top 4. So why not? Like Adam said, why can't we dream? Why can't we think that it's going to be a successful season? They started really, really well. They look confident, good manager, good players. So yes, I think it's a unique season, and there is an opportunity to finish higher than possibly if it was a normal season.
Adam, is now a good time to be playing Villa off the back of their defeat to Leeds, or is the Premier League just so unpredictable this season that form doesn't even come into it?
I think it probably is a decent time to play them, actually, because I suspect that there'll be a few of the players there who are wondering kind of, oh, right, is that kind of the bubble burst now? Are we going to sort of sink back down the table, especially those that had the experiences of struggling a lot more last season. So I think you'd rather play them on the back of a defeat than you would on the back of, an unbeaten start to the season. So I think it probably is a decent time to play them. That said, they do deserve respect. They've had a good start. I think they've kept 3 clean sheets already this season, so they're leaking very few goals in general. They've obviously had some big results, which we know about. And they are decent, but I don't think there's any reason for this Saints team to fear Villa particularly. They're a good team for sure. You're going to need to work hard and you're going to need to play well to beat them. But Saints have already beaten better teams this season, such as Everton. So I don't see any reason to fear this game for Saints.
Yeah, so there's just under half an hour until kick-off, so it's about time we start to wrap this up, gentlemen. Let's get some score predictions. Adam, what do you think it's going to be today?
I'm feeling quite bullish today, so I am going to go for a Saints victory. I actually think they're going to win this fairly comfortably, which is very famous last words, I know, but I'm going to go for a 3-0 win.
Oh,
okay, right, and Dean, yourself?
I'm feeling the same as Adam. I think I'm very confident in this team at the moment, and I would probably go a 2-0 win to Southampton. I think there will be chances in the game. I think it will be whoever defends the best, because the attacking players on display today are very, very good, very talented for both teams. So whoever can defend the best will win the game. And I think the stats might not show it. I think Aston Villa's clean sheets and conceding less is a little bit forced, personally. And them losing 3-0 to Leeds last week probably shows their true colours a little bit. So I'm going to go 2-0 Southampton.
So both predicting clean sheets and some convincing victories. We certainly like the sound of that. Now that's about all we've got time for today. Dean, Adam, thank you so much. As always, we'll be doing this all again at full time, so make sure you join us on the final whistle.